Hello Internet, my name is Ren. This is Ren Rants, a channel where I rant about everything from pop culture to politics. In this video we're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro's 2017 film, The Shape of Water. I know that I am extremely late to the party because this film has been out for months now, but I finally got an opportunity to see it over Valentine's Day. And I was so intrigued by it that I just had to talk about it with all of you. So here we are. My thoughts on this film vary because it's one of the most beautiful and enchanting films I've seen in a long time. It's also a weird fucking movie. It's such a weird movie. This is a bizarre film in a lot of ways, and they make some very, very strange choices in the film. So, to start off this video, I'm just going to talk about some general things that I liked and disliked about this movie, as well as the basic premise. And then towards the end, I'll give you a spoiler warning and do some brief spoiler talk where I talk about some specific things I have questions about towards the end of the film. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. The premise of this movie is that a mute woman named Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins, works in a government research lab in 1960s Baltimore during the height of the Cold War. And a mysterious fish boy creature is being housed at the facility, and she works as part of the cleaning staff. And she goes in to clean the place where the creature is being stored and eventually strikes up a friendship with the creature by giving it hard-boiled eggs and playing it music. And this movie is not the most original in its premise, and it's kind of based on almost a fairy tale idealization of the creature from the Black Lagoon, from my understanding, and you can definitely see where it's drawn that influence. But there is just this magical quality to the connection between Eliza and Fish Boy that I think makes this entire movie stand out. The movie is also absolutely gorgeous to look at. The cinematography is amazing, the color scheme is incredible, and every frame of this movie is just gorgeous. And I really, really enjoyed the theater experience of this movie. I have to say, it's one of the prettiest movies I've seen in a long time. It was so beautiful. And the performances are the other thing that I think really makes this movie. Again, Sally Hawkins did a fantastic job. Eliza communicates exclusively with sign language, except for one non-diegetic scene we see later in the movie. But besides that, we only get to see this character communicate with the expression on her face and with her hands. And the actress just does such a good job of embodying this rich character and really bringing her to life. And I just loved watching that performance. There was just something so beautiful about this character that you kind of felt like you were falling in love with her while she was falling in love with the creature. And the supporting cast is also amazing. Richard Jenkins as Giles, who is a closeted gay man who is an advertising illustrator and has kind of an interesting subplot of his own with the company that he was working for and with a man in the pie shop near where they live. And he's Eliza's neighbor. They live together in two different little apartments above a movie theater, and they spend most of their time together. Octavia Spencer is also incredible in this movie as Zelda Fuller. She is Eliza's best friend and works with her in the facility. And the scenes they have together just have so much chemistry, and I really enjoyed watching them interact. Octavia Spencer is just a delightful actress, and I really loved seeing her here. Doug Jones as the Fish Boy was incredibly good. And that's to be expected. He's basically the king of acting with weird shit on his face. And in this movie, again, with a character that doesn't communicate verbally, he did a great job of bringing this creature to life. And it really was a just beautiful experience to witness. Michael Shannon as the villainous Colonel Richard Strickland was also amazing. He pretty much stole every scene he was in. He was so good. And he made me do everything from kind of laugh in disbelief to just physically cringing in my seat. He has this amazing quality in scenes where he's really creepy that just makes your skin crawl. And his performance just added this real sinister, threatening force to the movie that really made what was ultimately a weak, strange plot work as well as it did. And that's definitely the weakest part of this movie, is the plot. The plot of this movie is weird and does not make a lot of sense. We also get a pretty good performance out of Michael Stolberg, who plays Dr. Hofstetler slash Dr. Dimitri. And I won't give away much more here because I feel like everything else now is kind of spoiler talk. But overall, this was a beautiful movie. The real point of this movie is the connection between the characters and the relationship that grows between Eliza and the fish creature. And so I think the reason the plot for this movie is so convoluted and mediocre is that this movie was not made for the plot. It was made for the relationship between the characters. The plot kind of takes a back seat. It's more used to push the characters to where they need to go than it actually is the point of the movie, if that makes any sense. So I kind of forgive the movie for having some strange plot points. Overall, I loved it, and I would definitely recommend checking out this movie. So, spoiler talk. I'm just going to bring up some specific things that bothered me about this movie. If you have not seen the movie, this is all stuff from the end of the movie that's pretty specific to how the plot turns out. I will grant that it is pretty predictable how the plot turns out, which is part of the weakness here, but it's still fair to give you the warning. If you have not seen this movie, I'm going to spoil it for you, so feel free to click away from this video until you have seen the movie. But for those of us who have seen it, okay, things that bothered me about this movie. If you've been watching this channel for some time, you know that I'm not a fan of body horror relating to hands. It drives me insane. I can't handle it. Handle it. I'm sorry. But it seriously bothers me. Any scene in a movie where people cut their hand, like even that scene in It where the kids are all cutting their hands, I'm just like, no, don't do that. Or the scene in Game of Thrones where Catelyn Stark wraps her hand around the knife, no thank you. Just no thank you. Do not want. No thank you. Towards the start of the movie, Strickland gets 2 of his fingers bitten off, and Eliza finds them and puts them in her lunch bag and has them brought back to him. They have mustard on them. That was a funny bit. Unfortunately, while doctors try to save the fingers by stitching them back on, the fingers end up slowly necrotizing through the course of the movie. And we get a couple horrific scenes with his hand, like when he's having sex with his wife and the hand is bleeding and he covers his wife's mouth with his disgusting, bleedy, dying hand. I hated that scene. I hated the hand horror so much. There's another scene where he kind of realizes his fingers are dying, where he's sort of prying them open to stare at them. And then towards the end of the movie, he actually rips them off and throws them on the ground to make a point. Because of course the psychopathic character rips off his own finger. I can't even talk. It makes me so grossed out. The psychopathic character, of course, rips off his own fingers and throws them on the floor. Because of course he does that. So the entire mechanism for the plot, where they decide just kind of seemingly on a whim that they're just going to vivisect the creature because that's the best way to learn from it, just felt totally forced. Also, the subplot with the Russians just felt completely unnecessary. I don't know why they added that in there. Maybe they just wanted an ethical science character. Maybe they wanted some kind of commentary on how not all the Russians were bad. I don't know. But it just felt like another thing shoehorned into the movie. I think their rescue plot could conceivably have been rewritten in such a way as to not necessitate using any Russian assistance, and she would still have been able to break the creature out. I think she could have just stolen the things that are needed to keep the creature alive because she was around it enough that I wouldn't be surprised if she was aware of some basics of its care. So it just felt like it was totally unnecessary. The character was okay, I kind of liked him, but I didn't get the point. And also, it seemed like he was just kind of there to sell them out at the end, which also felt pointless because he immediately dies afterwards, so it's not like he was going to be around long for Strickland to torture. It's really stupid he didn't just give some fake Russian names and then die. Why immediately reveal who did it and then laugh about it and then die? So stupid. There's also this scene where Eliza floods her apartment to bang the creature. Now, first of all, I like that they actually had sex with the creature in this movie, as weird as that sounds, and that the mechanics are explained, because I think that's something that's usually glossed over in these kinds of stories, and I think it adds another dimension to her as a character. And I like that actually in the beginning of the movie they kind of establish her sexual agency and make her sexuality a part of the story by having her masturbate with an egg timer every morning in the bath. I don't know why, but I actually immediately loved that scene. Not because I was turned on, although maybe a little. I loved that scene because I liked that it established her as a whole person with complete agency over herself that early in the story. And it kind of makes it so that some of the more creepy scenes, like where she's threatened by Strickland and he makes that really gross pass at her, somehow that scene, it seems to sort of cement her agency more, that we know that she has confidence in her sexuality on her own and that the issue is him, not that she has some fear of sexuality in general. I don't know why, but I liked that they added that, and I liked that they added that with the character. That being said, I don't see the reason that the apartment needed to be flooded. Don't know why she would risk doing that if she has a fish boy living in her place that she's trying to hide. She's trying to hide him. She's doing a bad job of hiding him. He also eats a cat and breaks out and leaves bloody handprints all over the place. Also, the cat eating scene. Why? Why do so many movies just hate cats? I love cats. Cats are the best. Like, please stop killing cats in movies, and at least not in such brutal ways. I did not need to see just a decapitated cat corpse lolling around in the hands of a fish creature. You could have just established that he can be dangerous by having him claw the guy when escaping while being startled in general or something. I don't know why they had to have a cat be eaten. I know it's not that big a deal. I know most of you are fine with it, but it grossed me out and it made me sad. It's like when dogs die in movies. I hate when animals die in movies because they're just so good. And finally, I thought that the need for the canal to be flooded enough for them to escape was sort of a weird choice as well, considering they have access to a vehicle. I don't know why they didn't just drive to a beach. That would have been a good thing to do. So, the plot of this movie, I think, is the biggest problem with this movie. It doesn't make a lot of sense, it's pretty convoluted, and there are some kind of silly moments that don't really gel with the rest of the film. Also, the pacing towards the end isn't great, but overall, I did really just love this movie. I would totally watch it again. I don't even care if the plot has problems. I'll suffer through those horrible, horrible finger horror scenes. I hate those. The idea of your limbs or your hands or any part of your body being dead and you being aware of it being dead while it's still attached to you is like my worst nightmare. I hate that so much. And it was such a big part of this movie. Oh my god. Oh, one last thing I thought was cute. I don't know if this was intentional, but the character's name Eliza is really funny to me because Liza, although it's spelled differently, in German means silence. And I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but that little pun makes me really happy. Well, that is everything I have for you on The Shape of Water. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. If you like my videos, subscribe, and if you don't, I am sure you will tell me. See you next time. Wiedersehen.